Welcome back to KMG Power Sports channel. Today, what I have here is this Hawk. It's a DLX 250. It has come in on trade, and it's got about 7,000 miles on it. It's a 23 model, and I get a lot of questions on how to adjust the chain. Well, on this one here, as you may notice, some of the chain is literally worn away. Chain is a little bit tight, completely dry, was not maintained properly. But yet the sprockets, they're not pointed. They still have nice edges on it. The tips are not bent, so I think the sprockets are going to be okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to replace this chain in addition to showing you how to adjust your chain for regular maintenance. All right, first thing that needs to happen here is I'm going to go ahead and remove the chain guard. And that will give me access to the front sprocket or counter sprocket. All right. Well, the counter sprocket does appear to be extremely worn. The teeth are all bent on it. So this is something I am definitely going to need to replace. Get a better angle on here. See how the teeth are bent. Yeah, that's no bueno. So if I go to put a new chain on this, the only thing it's going to do is ruin it. So let's get started on that. Flip this just enough to slide it off of the splines. And sometimes you can slide this right off. Yeah. There it is. This is a 17 tooth. So this is the one if you do mostly on-road riding, one that's recommended to give you the slightly taller gears and a better top speed. But as you can tell, this guy is completely worn out. So let's go ahead and set it down and get this chain removed. Find the master link. It is right here. Pop off the clip. And chain is out. Okay, well, now that the chain's been removed, what I've done is I've laid it out next to a new chain. Now, your factory chain is going to be a 428. What I like to use on these, and they just because they're a little beefier, is a 428H. A little bit thicker links on it, but the dimensions are pretty much the same. There's not a clearance issue with these on the Hawks at all. And what's important here is to line up your links. So you're not going by length because this chain has stretched quite a bit. So you push it in, line up your links, and then keep your links even all the way back to the end. To right here. So this is the pin that needs to be removed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mark it with a Sharpie. This guy right there. So that way I know which pin to push out. So with the mark right there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a chain breaker. And this is my favorite style. There's many different kinds of chain breakers out there. But these here, and you can find these on eBay and Amazon. And what they do is they just slip over the pin like so. And then you take your inner pin and you give it a forceful twist. And you got to make sure everything is lined up, because if it's not, it is going to resist you and it's not going to want to go. There it is. And there's my pin. Back this guy back out. You get the pin that it pushed in here out. And then what I do is I go ahead and pop this back out. And there it is. Nice clean cut. Didn't have to grind anything. Did not have to get the chain hot to get this off. All right, well, now that my chain has been cut, I know that it's going to be quite a bit shorter than the original chain, which is going to create a problem as far as adjustment. But before I get ahead of myself, I do need to replace the sprocket that was so badly worn on this guy. And I'm replacing it with another 17 tooth to keep the gear ratio where it was, where it's going to be ideal for a bike that goes mostly on the street. Go ahead and take the sprocket, slide it over the splines, and take your retainer clip, put it on. Once you get onto the groove, slightly turn it to where your holes line up, and then start your bolts. And these are typically going to be at 10 mil M6, 10 mil head M6. I went and put it in gear so it doesn't spin on me. Now, a lot of folks have said, well, there's something wrong with the sprocket. It is loose on here. Well, it is supposed to be. This is what's called a free-floating sprocket. So it's supposed to have some free play to where it can move back and forth. This one, probably a little excessive, mainly because the output shaft on this one, or counter shaft, is worn a bit. So the splines are just not what they used to be. But I think for now, it'll be fine. Now, new chain goes through and around. And as I said before, it is going to be way too short until I'm 2 links short on this. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to adjust the rear axle. On the rear axle, it's usually going to be a 19 millimeter on the right side, on the nut side, and then a 17 on the bolt side. So normally I use an impact to get this guy off, but not everybody has one, and really not hard to take off. And you just don't have to take it off all the way. You just simply have to loosen it enough to allow this axle to move. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up my adjusters. There's one. And on the other side. And at this point I can move my wheel forward. Hey, there it is. All right. We are even. So now I get out my new master link. And it's got a little clip I need to remove. I'll just simply take some pliers, pop that dude off. I like to bring it in from the back side, that way I have my clip on the outside for easy access in the future. Now, what is important here is the position of this clip. This wheel spins this way, so this chain is going to be moving in this direction. You want to have the closed end of the clip in the direction of the movement of the chain. And the reason that needs to be is if something bumps into this, it's going to tighten it rather than knock it loose off of the backside. All right, new chain is in, and it's actually a little bit loose now. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the adjusters. All right, make sure that they are centered up on here. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. Plate, lock washer, and nut. It's time to tighten the chain. These are typically going to be a 13 millimeter. And what's important here is to tighten both sides equally. If you have one side turned back more than the other, your back wheel will be sideways and your bike is not going to track correctly. bit more. I'm looking for about a 1/2 inch of slack. Right there, about a 1/2 inch. That looks good. All right, go ahead and tighten this axle back up. And you want to get this fairly tight. I mean, don't get heroic to where you strip it and jump up and down under anything. Just give it a good snug. Check it again. All right. And it's a little on the snug side. Reason being, it's a brand new chain. I know on my first ride, it is going to stretch quite a bit. So now that the axle can no longer move, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these adjusters a bit. All right. It's on, everything is tight. The only thing left to do is to lube the chain and put the cover back on. All right, let's give it a good spray. Chain lube is important. All right, all that is back. Put this cover back on. All right, after all that's done, you might want to just take a quick peek down the chain to make that your sprocket, back sprocket, and your front counter sprocket are all in one line and nice and straight. If they're not, then you probably need to put some adjustments here, left or right, and then make sure that your wheel is perfectly square. Otherwise, your bike will not track correctly. I've had a lot of requests on how to do the chains on these Hawk bikes, so we went ahead and made this and hope you find it helpful. Now we're going to keep having videos coming out. If there's any questions that you have or anything that you'd like to see, be sure to put it in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe and like our videos, and we'll see you next time around. Thanks for watching.